get the out of my face. Seriously?
You ain't the homie, this ain't for you. Ain't chasing paper, this ain't for you. You know what we came to do.
Hey,
You know
man,
what we came to do.
look, I'm in a league of my own. Y'all need to leave it alone. I'ma just eat everything. I'ma just leave you the bones. Call it an even exchange. There ain't no need to explain. Yeah, it should be overstood. Like when I hop on a plane and I fly over your hood. Y'all should be knocking on wood. Don't make me go against the grain. I ate my Wheaties, I'm good.
What's the deal? What's the deal? It's your boy Kelly Flicks, and I'm back with another episode of HBCU Flicks. Today, unfortunately, my boy Malc not going to be with us, but I'm going to hold it down. We got a couple new segments, and we'll get into that. But there's plenty of stuff to talk about today. There's so much stuff went down. What I will say, the Combine has put a lot into perspective. The NFL Combine is going on right now. Big shout-outs to Willie Drew out of Virginia State and Aneem Dankwa out of Howard, out there right now putting on for HBCUs. Aneem Dankwa and Willie Drew actually just participated in drills the past couple days. We'll get into that stuff for sure. We've got plenty to talk about, including Grambling. Grambling has now added their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, which are both Southern's previous head coaches. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about Jackson State, how they have promoted from within to now have what I think is the youngest coaching staff in the SWAC. Javancy Jones and Terenzo Quinn are both guys in their 20s still. So that's going to be a point of contention, and we've got plenty of other stuff to talk about. But starting off the show, I do want to get into my boy Scotty, man. Shout out to Off Script. Made a tweet that got some people kind of riled up, a little upset, and in the tweet he said, "There is a man from the Caucasus Mountains running a 4.4 at linebacker. But we supposed to have linebackers drafted from HBCUs running 4.7s and 8s flats. Let's be real." So this tweet has gotten a lot of traction, and everybody has their own sound off about it. But there's some truth in this tweet. There's some truth in it, and it's more than just this 4.4 40-yard dash. I mean, this kid Peyton Wilson is an absolute dog. He's 2023 Defensive Player of the Year in the ACC. He's won plenty of awards this past. Let's read off the awards. What's this? The Bednark Award. He's won 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. He's dominated when you talk about being a defensive player. So his 4.4 is just like the cherry on top, per se, right? So even when I look at this tweet, what I take from this tweet really, and I think Offscript puts it into perspective for us, there were some bad combine results from some of our HBCU players. Pretty bad ones. I mean, if you just look at the linebackers alone, compare the 40-yard dash, for instance, right? Just of anything. Lewis Matthews, right? This kid measures in at 5'9", 235 pounds out of Grambling, running 4.7. As much as I like Bubba Adams, Colton Adams, measured in at 5'11", around 230 pounds, ran a 4.8. Another guy from Morgan State I like, at linebacker, Lawrence Richardson, measured in at 6 feet, ran a 4.8. So, at some point, yeah, this stuff has to correlate, because you look at HBCU players, HBCU prospects, and how can they get drafted? How do they get on that board? Well, we kind of see what's going on. A guy like Josh Williams ran like a 4.4, 4.3 for Fayetteville State, ended up getting drafted 3rd round, Kansas City Chiefs. Isaiah Bolden this past year, the kid ran like a 4.3. That type of stuff is going to get you drafted, and really, you look at this, everybody can't get drafted. When we look at the field, all this testing and stuff is what sets different players apart from other guys. At the end of the day, there's a conference of the year player in each of these position groups: linebacker, running back, quarterback, receiver. What sets them apart is testing and measurements. That's what sets you apart. So there were some great performances from the HBCU Combine, and there were some abysmal performances. You know what I mean? What I like and what I didn't like type of stuff. But in saying that, I guess getting into the Legacy Bowl and the Combine, I didn't really get to talk about Davis Richards, so I'll chime in on that in just a sec. But with these Combine results, we saw some guys that really went down my list, some guys that really shot up my list, and quite frankly, I think this leaves a lot of room for improvement from some of these HBCU prospects. You look at guys like Mookie Collier, right, running back out of North Carolina Central, probably one of the hardest running backs in this running back class. He came out and ran a 4.77. You know, that's not going to be good enough. But you do have the chance at the pro day to run a time that could be much faster, you know, because at the end of the day, as these guys should have been trained in speed training throughout to get ready for these testing, you still have more time to improve your time because you have a pro day in a couple of weeks or so. So, Patrick Garbo, a guy that climbed up my list a lot. This guy measuring at 6'1", 233 pounds, but he ran a 4.6 out of the defensive line position. His vertical was a 34.5-inch vert. It's pretty good for a big guy. Then he runs a 4.46 shuttle, so it shows me that he's quick on his feet. Those type of numbers move you up on draft boards. You know, negative numbers do hurt, especially when you're coming from a small school and it's perceived that your competition is actually lower than others. It means something. So I will say, you know, as people may disagree with Scotty, however you feel, there's some truth to it. You can't just be defensive player of the year on a 4.8 and think you're going to get drafted. Peyton Wilson probably couldn't get away with that. Keep it a buck. He probably couldn't get away with that. Not in today's age, no. So that was that. Let's chime in on Davius Richard. So Davius Richard, HBCU News has reported that his ankle was not dislocated. So the dislocated ankle was reportedly going to keep him out for 4 to 6 months. But now HBCU Sports reports that the Davius Richard injury is not significant, whatever that means. I mean, what is not significant? I don't know. Is that like a weekly thing? I don't really understand what that means. So I think that what's going on is Davius Richard's camp is trying to keep this under wraps. I know no news, and I'm not going to break any news if I did know it anyway, but they're trying to keep this under wraps. You know, when it comes to the draft process, injuries and medicals, Michael Penix is going through this right now because of his previous injuries. They're going through his medicals and things like that to see if he's a guy that can withstand the hits in the league, you know, or is he going to be a guy you maybe sit for a little bit, kind of like Hendon Hooker. So with Davius Richard, with this injury, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're only talking to teams about this injury, but at the end of the day, I don't think Davius Richard will be throwing at his pro day. I don't think it's happening. I think that at the pro day, he'll probably, you know, he won't participate at all because of this injury. This injury does not seem like somebody's just going to bounce back. It doesn't seem like he just twisted his ankle. He was carted off. He couldn't put any pressure on his actual foot. It's not great news, but at the same time, it is what it is, you know, so We'll find out more and more throughout this process, and I'm pretty sure after the draft we'll definitely understand the true extent of his injuries, because then it'll come up, why didn't he get picked, or why didn't he get picked up, or whatever, and then that's when injuries and stuff usually come out. So look forward to that. But in the meantime, I just dropped my HBCU top prospects. Dropped my prospect list. It's a nice list. Let's put up a month. You know what I mean? So we could really dive into it. But at number 1 is Aneem Dankwa. No surprise to anybody. Aneem Dankwa is a 6'9", 330-pound offensive tackle. He's going to protect the blind side. And he's pretty good run blocking. He's a mauler. So you can actually probably throw him at the right tackle, in my opinion, and have him go maul guys on that power run offense. So Aneem Dankwa is by far number 1. Number 2, I got Mikey Victor. Mikey Victor actually showed out this offseason. Went to the Hula Bowl, did his thing. Went to the East-West Shrine Bowl, did his thing. Sat out the HBCU Combine and the HBCU Legacy Bowl because he didn't need it. He simply did not need it. So I expect him to go out to his pro day, run a very fast time, thinking 4.3s, a minimum 4.4. He's a speedy guy, very rangy cornerback at 6'3", defensive back. You can really put him at different positions. You go inside and nickel, I think. Even keep him outside or even go safety with him. I think that he's a very versatile player, a type of guy that you want in your defense, and he really resembles Isaiah Bolden to me when it comes to a guy that can do different things on defense, right? Isaiah Bolden was a nickel cornerback, right? He can go to the outside, though, because he's 6'2". He's also a good returner. Things like that, to me, put you ahead other guys on prospect lists because other NFL teams, or actually NFL teams, will look at you as though they can use you in very different ways, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to maximize your 53-man roster to the best of its ability. And I think Mikey Victor gives the NFL team that possibility. So then we got Davius Richard at 3. Unfortunately, he's injured. Not sure about the extent of his injuries, but I definitely would take a chance on him if I was a team. And then Josh Hayward. This is another D2 guy, guys. This guy he's a cornerback out of Benedict College. Absolute stud. Great size out there. Very physical cornerback. He did also play on the circuit as far as all-star games. He was at the Hula Bowl. Didn't get the invite to the Shrine Bowl, but was at the HBCU Legacy Bowl. So he did get a chance to get himself out there. You know, testing-wise, I don't think I saw him test for the HBCU Combine. So I don't think his numbers are out yet, so probably do a Benedict Combine. But he's a pretty good corner out there. Sundiata Anderson, next guy up here, he's really kind of fallen on my list. I thought that he was going to be the top HBCU prospect coming into this offseason, but he simply does not have the motor to be the top guy, in my opinion. He hasn't shown that. He hasn't. There's times in his defense last year with Grambling where I felt like he was taking plays off. You know, kind of how people were feeling about Chase Young at times last year. It's kind of how I was feeling about Sundiata Anderson. There were a lot of plays where I felt he left a lot on the table. And even in some situations where I thought about, okay, maybe it's the actual defense they're in, because Grambling's defense was terrible last year. It was very bad. It was Charmin soft. I still felt like he still could have impacted the game in other ways. His pass rushing ability really lagged last year, where I thought that he could really weigh into guys as a big 6'5" defensive end and really move guys out the way. It seemed like he got tired and fatigued at times, and maybe that was a product of taking on multiple double teams. They did come out in a 3-man front for most of the season. So maybe that just really did not favor Sundiata Anderson's play. It's the only, kind of cop-out I can give him at this point, but I thought he would definitely be our number 1 going to the offseason. So I'm not going to go through everybody. We'll probably do that on the late show. But for now, getting into a new segment, guys, a new segment. This one is called What I Like and What I Don't Like. Let's get to that. What I like and what I don't like. So, what I like. Willie Drew just went out to the NFL Combine and he ran a 4.47. Playing corner, safety, DB. He's doing it. He ranked up there in the top 10 with the fastest DBs out, which is great. Big shout-outs to Willie Drew. So that's what I like. I think that he's going to be a guy. He's going to continue to climb my list. As you can see on my prospect list, he was just outside. Well, he's in the top 10. He just made my top 10. He's at 10. Willie Drew out of Virginia State. He fell in this list because he was invited to the Reese Senior Bowl, but did not play particularly well. He did not do things that I thought that he could do out there at the Reese Senior Bowl. So I was really feeling as though he may just continue to fall. But with this good performance at the NFL Combine, I'm going to put him up some more points, and in my updated prospect board, I will definitely have him a little bit higher after this Combine showing. So let's continue this. What I don't like. Let's get into what I don't like. So what I don't like was Jeremy Musa's performance at the HBCU Legacy Bowl. It was abysmal. I'm not going to put his stats up here and do all that stuff, but it was abysmal. I thought that he was a quarterback that had the most to gain at the HBCU Legacy Bowl, and he simply didn't come up with results. He did not come up with any results during HBCU Legacy Bowl. He had a touchdown pass, but I got to put an asterisk next to it. Lyndon Rash caught the ball, fell down, and the defense did not tag him, and he ran in for another 20 yards. It was simply a dig route, guys. It wasn't the greatest ball in the world. It actually sent Lyndon Rash to the ground to catch it. So, Jeremy Musa, I got questions, serious questions about your talent at the next level. You were able to make it onto my prospect list despite this bad game. You made it at 22, right? At that position last year, players were getting Canadian football calls and USFL calls. Just to put in perspective what that really means on my list, how it traditionally means. So, Jeremy Musa, you worked on some things in the past couple weeks in offseason in California that worked out for you. now I just wonder, why didn't he apply these new techniques to his game? This looks like the old Jeremy Musa from week 2. Week 2 was 4 months ago, bro. This is the NFL. You're not playing West Florida. If you want to play on the next level, you have to actually improve your game. The accuracy has to get better. I need to see more tight spirals. I need to see quicker reads. It doesn't seem like he's a pre-snap guy. It really doesn't seem like he's a post-snap guy. He's throwing the ball to receivers late. That's the problem. He's getting it to him late. He's seeing everything late, then releasing. A good corner's going to pick that. A couple of times they got very close to intercepting Jeremy Musa because of his late throws, late outside throws, late in breaking routes. That stuff doesn't work. It doesn't find an NFL level. That is not an NFL caliber quarterback. And I'm really starting to think that Jeremy Musa is not an NFL caliber quarterback. Something to talk about, but that's what I didn't like from this past week. Let's keep it moving. We got more stuff to talk about, plenty more stuff to talk about, including one of the most storied programs in HBCU football, Grambling. Grambling adds Eric Dooley to the staff. This is interesting. Coach Mickey Joseph brings in offensive coordinator Eric Dooley from Southern and brings in defensive coordinator Jason Rollins from Southern. Very interesting. But I don't think this is going to work. I really don't think this is going to work. And I don't think it's going to work not for personal reasons. I have no vendetta against these guys. I don't feel any type of ways against any of these guys. But I saw Eric Dooley's offense at Southern, where he had complete control, 100% control of that offense, and it didn't look good. It looked stale at times. There were a lot of times during the Southern football games where I wondered how Coach Dooley was going to get his quarterback into rhythm and get them back into games. And a lot of times he never let Harold Blood get back into rhythm with short throws or easy passes. Almost every pass was down the field 10 to 15 yards, out breaking route, in breaking routes, very small windows in the hope that you could definitely throw past a zone. And don't get me wrong, some of those are NFL throws. But college quarterbacks aren't ready to make NFL throws the entire game, especially not at the HBCU level. It seemed as though the spread offense at Southern was stale because Coach Eric Dooley simply did not want to progress the offense. We see a lot of different spread concepts from around 2012 and 13 that worked all right, but defenses have now progressed past those levels of offenses and simple read option plays. I don't feel like it's going to work. I leave a little piece of me outright to say maybe this works because Miles Crawley is that good. Maybe this works because Miles Crawley can actually make those NFL caliber plays and throws. Maybe that's why this works. But I honestly cannot see Eric Dooley offense working in 2024. I just don't. I haven't seen it work at Southern. I don't think it'll work now. It worked at Grambling with Kincaid in 2017. Offenses have really changed since 2017. And I'm pretty sure Coach Eric Dooley has used shades of that offense at Southern in last year, 2023. So that didn't work in the SWAC last year. How do we expect that to work in the SWAC this year? It's the same guy calling the plays. If Southern's offense last year was 4th, that would mean that Grambling's offense this year would be around 4th. He's not this grand offensive guru that he used to be. It does not appear to be that way. It does not appear to be that he is this offensive techno genius that is pulling the strings in the SWAC. It doesn't feel like that. It hasn't felt like that the couple of years that Southern has been under his reign. I don't think he was the guy. I think Lee Ho was the guy. Why let Lee Ho go to UAPB? It worked for you. That was working. Maybe Hugh Jackson was working. The offense was working. The top offense in the SWAC. That was working. But instead, you let him walk, and you bring in a new guy. So it is what it is. Grambling going to do what Grambling going to do because, they trying to restore the order and all that stuff. So, I guess. Then the defensive coordinator, Jason Rollins, right? So he was the interim coach at Southern for about a year and a half. Didn't have much of a chance at being the guy, in my opinion. They were constantly talking about Kevin Sumlin and all these other guys, which were bad choices also. But Jason Rollins was the head coach at Southern. If you remember correctly, the first year at Jackson State, they went up against Southern for a night game, and the head coach at Southern was Jason Rollins. That was a very exciting game, went down to the last minute of the game. So Jason Rollins is going to return to Grambling and be the defensive coordinator. Not very confident in that move either, but it had to be better than their past defensive coordinator, Cedric Thornton, I believe his name was. Terrible. It was just bad. So that shows some light because I'm not this big fan of bringing both Southern coaches over to Grambling, but Grambling's defense was so bad, anybody has to be better than that. That defense was terrible. Like, they're allowing 40 a game. They allowed Florida Memorial to put up 500 yards of total offense on them. Florida Memorial was only losing by a touchdown at halftime. Defense, where you at? Couldn't find it. So, Grambling adds Eric Dooley to the coaching staff. We'll see how this works. What I will say, though, we'll talk about it on the Late Show. But, man, there was a picture of all the Grambling coaches out, and they're wearing like the Grambling coaches are maybe like at a school. Everybody's out. Most of the Grambling coaches are all wearing their Grambling shirts or polos and, got some slacks or some sweats on. Why is Eric Dooley wearing like a full suit? I thought that was interesting. We'll get into it on the Late Show, but you're not the head coach no more, my guy. Like, why are you dressed as a head coach now? You go ahead and throw that polo on, my boy. Throw the polo on, throw the slacks on, throw the belt in. You're an assistant coach. Assistant coaches got dress code. You can't just be out here just wearing suits every day as an offensive coordinator. I don't know what offensive coordinator does that. Cliff Kingsbury ain't do that. So, let's move it on. Going from Grambling, let's get into top 5, man. I got top 5 for y'all. Top five. Here we go. So, my top 5 for this week is coaching superlatives. My top 5 promotions, demotions, wobblers, anything in between. So, of course, as everybody knows, my top head coaching hire is Chennis Berry out of South Carolina State. Clap for that. My top assistant coach hire. Very sneaky offensive coach hire. Offensive coordinator Chris Barnett going to Alabama State. That is a very sneaky hire. Right? There were so many questions about Alabama State's offense this past year and what offense coordinator Harry Williams was doing back there and why are there 2 different quarterbacks and why doesn't it work? Why is our offense so elementary? All right, wipe the slate. Let go Harry Williams. He goes to Tuskegee. You insert offensive coordinator Chris Barnett from Winston-Salem State. Go take a look at some Winston-Salem State tape from last year, and you'll see R.J. Mobley running all over the place at receiver. You'll see a young quarterback that looks like he has some great potential down in Winston-Salem. All this is Chris Barnett's doing. Chris Barnett is a great offensive coach, and now he returns to the big stage. He was once a North Carolina A&T guy. He returns to the big stage in the SWAC now, offensive coordinator at Alabama State. Wouldn't be surprised if Alabama State has a better record than FAMU next year. I would not be surprised. Would not be surprised. So, the best promotion. We got a promotion. New defensive coordinator at Florida A&M, Milton Patterson, was promoted from defensive line coach to defensive coordinator. Big shout out to him. I think this is the best promotion. This defensive line coach has brought together a great core of defensive linemen during his tenure at Florida A&M. He definitely has. Past 5 years, they have put out guys. I got a whole video about Milton Patterson and what he does as a head coach, HBCU football. Just go ahead, just search the profile. You know what I mean? And don't forget to like and subscribe to this also. But Milton Patterson is a guy, defensive line coach. So him getting promoted to defensive coordinator, I like it. Hiring from within, I'll take it. You know, the other hires Coach Cozy made, I'm like, all right, we took a month to hire from within. What are we doing? Same way they took a month to hire him. So they just, fam, you work slow, homie. They work really slow. But whatever. That's another topic for another day. Sleeper move. My sleeper move. You know, the uppercut. The uppercut. Jason Phillips, offensive coordinator at Norfolk State. He was offensive coordinator at Alcorn. I was told that I guess he wasn't calling plays, according to G. He wasn't calling plays, but he was definitely on the staff, and he was around play formation and schematics and philosophies and game plans, but he just didn't call plays on game day. But Jason Phillips, I'm assuming he's going to Norfolk to call plays. And Norfolk was a dumpster fire last year. They're terrible. We're going to see an uptick in this offense this year with Jason Phillips as offensive coordinator. It was a big loss for Alcorn, but hey, big get for Norfolk. That is my sleeper move of the year when it comes to coaches and coaching carousel. So, lastly, the Wobbler. The Wobbler. Y'all know what's coming. Coach Eric Dooley, offensive coordinator, now at Grambling. Previously the head coach at Southern. That is my Wobbler pick. I don't think I need to explain more. I feel like I explained enough on the last segment, but I'll say here, I think this isn't going to work. And if it does work, I think it works because of Miles Crawley. I think that Coach Eric Dooley's offense is now old and decrepit. I don't think it's enough to win a SWAC championship in today's game. As close as he's gotten. I know, I get it. He was in the SWAC championship. I get it. I don't think his offense is enough to win the SWAC in today's game. I really don't. I think that's going to take a lot of proving to me. I think that Grambling should have kept Lee Hole as offensive coordinator and should have never made this move in the first place. You let Lee Hole walk. He was on the top head coaching candidates for FAMU, and now he's offensive coordinator at UAPB. You let him walk out the door. Everything was working just fine. So, hey, I'm kind of like this because I'm really. I gotta watch out for Miles Crawley, man. He's one of my favorite SWAC quarterbacks. I think he's the best HBCU quarterback out. I think he's had tough stretches last year. I think he's really the guy. Don't play with my baby. That's how I feel about that. Don't play with my baby. Take care of Miles Crawley. He's the guy. So, from my top 5, we will continue to move. Next up, let's get into the youngest staff. This is the youngest staff in the SWAC, in my opinion. I think this is the youngest staff. Jackson State has made some promotions and moved some things around because they lost their offensive coordinator and they lost their defensive coordinator in the span of like 2 weeks. All right, lost the defensive run game coordinator, lost defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. They lost a lot, right? So they're just now they're promoting guys, and there was a big question about who would be the offensive coordinator for these guys going into the spring? Would it be DC? Everything like that. So questions have been answered. The defensive coordinator is going to be Terenzo Quinn, who was previously a defensive back coach at Jackson State. He was promoted from within. Proud of him. Good for him. Offensive coordinator. This is the question mark, offensive coordinator, right? Because they have listed as the run game coordinator Manny Ramirez, right? But they did not list the passing game coordinator, and they did not really list Manny Ramirez as an offensive coordinator. It's actually listed as the O-line coach and run game coordinator. So, my big conspiracy is that T.C. Taylor is going to be the offensive coordinator at Jackson State this year. He's going to call plays. He's going to head coach and call plays. As much as he would like to be the CEO, it doesn't seem like they found a guy that could fill that spot as offensive coordinator or at least ink the deal yet. So maybe at least the start of the spring, I think Coach T.C. Taylor is going to be calling plays. While he was calling plays at Jackson State, they averaged 27 and a half points per game. They were around third in the conference, and they were second in the conference in scoring behind Alabama A&M and Akil Glass. Not too bad, but TC Taylor was demoted as offensive coordinator coming into like a year after his first year as offensive coordinator at Jackson State. So, that does mean something. But at the same time, if TC Taylor is able to bring in guys to actually coach this for him, I think that makes Jackson State a better team. We have a lot of promotions within the program, and even you bring in a new face, Javancy Jones, man, who was a very good high school coach out of Mississippi that was hired on the Jackson State staff originally as linebackers coach, and it seems like he has now been given the special teams coach job. So I think that's more of like a prove-it spot. You got Javancy Jones. Well, I just, figured out Javancy Jones and Terenzo Quinn are around the same age. That's around my age. So it kind of, when you promote a guy that was a defensive backs coach and you hire a high school head coach, the weight to me kind of seems around the same. The only difference would be the defensive backs coach has actually been around the program, been around the previous defensive coordinator, been around the guys, maybe actually putting in more input than you would have thought. So maybe you know a little bit more about the defensive coordinator because Javancy Jones is a defensive guy. Like he is, quite frankly. He could be defensive coordinator. He could have been defensive coordinator at Jackson State, I think. But I think he's been put as special teams coach, kind of something to prove it, show that you can coordinate these guys, get them together, and execute some plays. And then once you prove that, maybe he's on the short list, to be defensive coordinator if Terenzo Quinn doesn't work out. That's my conspiracy theory. I'll just throw that out there. I'll put it out there. Then you promote your associate head coach, Otis, I want to say it right. Otis Ridley, I think I actually misspelled his name up there too. I'm sorry about that. Otis Ridley to general manager. He was already recruiting coordinator. So general manager, essentially you're going to take care of all the kids, make sure everybody's fed, everybody's taken care of, and also coordinate recruiting visits and things like that. He's already been great at that job. I think he was already doing that without the title. And every other HBCU also needs to add this GM title. There are some GMs, but there aren't enough in HBCU spectrum. Every program needs one. You need a guy that the players can go to or a guy that's taking care of the kids because at the end of the day, the head coach can't do everything. Can't be everywhere. You have to delegate some of these authorities and some of these rules to be put into place by your assistant coaches. And a guy like Otis really out there, a very good coach and a guy that I think the players look up to. So I think that's a great move. Big shout out to Jackson State on that. So we're getting close to the end of the show, guys. I went back to my 30-minute format this week, man, since we missing Malc. But I believe we are pretty much finished. Let me make sure, though. What I like, what I don't like, top prospects. Oh, yeah, we got it all. All right, so don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be clipping all this up. Every Monday, we're going to be at this. I got y'all. Every Monday, we're going to be at this, getting live. And then on Wednesday nights, we're going to Late Show. Then on Thursdays, look out for 323 Thursday.